Your body knows you're overwhelmed before your mind ever admits it.
You're listening to Overwhelmed Working Woman, the podcast that helps you be more calm and more productive by doing less. I'm your host, Michelle Gauthier, a former overwhelmed working woman and current life coach. On this show, we unpack the stress and pressure that today's working woman experiences. And in each episode, you'll get a strategy to bring more calm, ease, and relaxation to your life.
Thanks for joining today. It's good to have you back. Today, we're going to be talking about stress and overwhelm showing up in our body. When we think about stress, we feel like it's a problem in our mind. It's our thoughts and we're overworrying and overthinking. And I do think that is true. But also, I think when we ignore those thoughts and those feelings, that we end up feeling it in our body. So today we're going to talk about the ways that stress can show up in your body before you're maybe even consciously aware that stress, overwhelm, or burnout is happening, why high achievers and people pleasers tend to ignore those signals from the body, and what happens when stress builds up in your body and your body finally forces you to slow down. Speaking of our bodies, today's episode is sponsored by Inspire Wellness, a St. Louis-based, woman-owned supplement and health company. And this is where I get my supplements. I subscribe to them so they just show up on my front porch. It makes it very easy for me to be consistent in taking them every single day. One of the things that I subscribe to and take every day in my coffee is creatine. Now, when I first heard about creatine, I was picturing like Arnold Schwarzenegger of the 80s and other bodybuilders, and those were the people who took creatine. But creatine is something that is naturally occurring in our bodies. It's one of the most studied supplements, and it's very safe and has been proven beneficial to women, especially in the perimenopause and menopausal stages. I'm raising my hand because that's me. I have really seen an increase in my overall energy and energy during workouts. Plus, it's good for cognitive health. So it really has helped clear up some brain fog that I was having as well. Our bodies naturally produce creatine, but less as we age. So you could get it from eating meat or fish, but you'd have to eat like 3 pounds of meat per day to get the necessary dose of creatine. Who's got time to eat 3 pounds of meat a day? That's what I want to know. So go to inspirewellnessstl.com/OWW for Overwhelmed Working Woman, and you will get 15% off when you subscribe to the bestseller bundle, which is creatine and collagen, another thing I love. Okay, let's get back to talking about stress in our mind and our body. The part of our brain called the amygdala evaluates whether something feels threatening or overwhelming, like a looming deadline or a conflict with someone or uncertainty or perceived failure, whatever it is. Our brain reacts to that and then it activates the body. And that's where you will hear about having an adrenaline surge or having cortisol. And those physical changes can cause us to have a faster heart rate or faster breathing or tense muscles, increased blood sugar, all these different things that can happen within our body. So although we tend to think of stress as something that happens in our mind, it does start there, but it also goes to our bodies. When you're in a phase where you're just used to pushing through stress, or maybe you would even consider that you've been on high alert or in fight or flight for some extended amount of time, you might get used to feeling that stress in your mind. But something that usually will really stand out is when stress becomes a whole body experience. When your brain is feeling stress, it will often show up in different places in your body as well. I can tell you for sure, I can think of 2 past times in my life. One was right before I got divorced and while I was getting divorced. And the other was when there was something really stressful that was going on. The company that I was working for was being sold. Everything was moving so quickly. It was very stressful. And during those times, I had a persistent low back pain. And during the work one, I would just feel sick during the day. Like I thought a couple times that I had the stomach flu, but then it would go away at night. So obviously it wasn't the stomach flu. The way that I like to think about it is that our brain is offering us thoughts and feelings. And sometimes when we ignore those, our body will also let us know, hey, something isn't right. Something is going wrong here. You might notice tight shoulders or neck pain, frequent headaches, some kind of digestive issues like I was talking about, feeling wired but exhausted. Whatever it is for you, there's probably some place in your body that those feelings are showing up, maybe even before you've consciously noticed that you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. And this can be a good thing because these physical signals are often a body's early warning system. Now, today, my life is completely different than it was 7 or 8 years ago when I was getting divorced. But every once in a while, I'll get that low back pain. And it's so helpful to me because I'm like, oh gosh, what is going on? What am I worried about that I haven't consciously brought to light for myself? And that's when I get out my journal and I figure out what is going on. The second thing I want to talk about is that high achievers and people pleasers learn to ignore their bodies. So if you're a responsible, hardworking, high achieving person, chances are you've been rewarded for pushing through discomfort. So that means even when you're exhausted, dehydrated, and brain dead, you can still pull it out of yourself to do just a little bit more work. And you're so used to being dependable that a lot of times you just push through and be like, I'll rest later, or I just need to get through this next project, or next week will be easier. So even though our brain and our body are telling us, hey, you need a rest, or hey, things are not going well here, you really need to look into this, we learn to push past it because we're so attached to getting things done. Also, if you're a people pleaser, you're so focused on taking care of everyone else's needs that it becomes very easy to disconnect from your own. You might have the aching lower back or the constant tension in your neck, but you're just used to pushing past it because you override those signals. If you're listening to me saying this and thinking, do I do that? You can easily just close your eyes unless you're driving, then don't. And do a quick body scan. Start at the top of your head, go to the muscles in your face and your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, just go all the way down and see if there's somewhere that you feel pain or tenseness in your body, because you could be carrying around physical discomfort and just moving past it all the time. And if you're thinking, yeah, I do move past it all the time. So what? I'm doing it. It's just fine. Just remember, and I'm not trying to be negative, but the body keeps score. You can only do that for so long. Which brings me to my third point, which is eventually your body's going to force a reset. I've had a couple guests on the podcast. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head where their story begins with them having a panic attack or ending up in the hospital or becoming so fatigued that they have to take weeks off of work. There's only so much tension that our body and our brain can be under until our body has to pull out all the stops and really force a rest that we weren't willing to take. A lot of times people say, I didn't see this coming, or I was really stressed out, but I didn't realize it was this bad. So the reason why I'm talking about this today is because your body is trying to protect you. So if you tune into it and try to listen to what it's saying and notice where you're holding tension or where your body and your mind are feeling off, you could get an early warning sign that could help you from becoming too stressed or sick or whatever could happen when you keep holding on to that stress and overwhelm, both in your brain and your body. If something that I said today is speaking with you, maybe just take a minute to check in with yourself, check in with your body. How are you actually feeling? And remember that sometimes our most important information isn't coming from our thoughts, but it's coming from the signals that your body is sending all along. So don't forget, stress can show up in the body. We can often notice stress in our body before we even consciously notice it in our brain. High achievers and people pleasers should be on high alert for this because we learn to ignore the signals coming from our body. And eventually your body will force a reset. It will force you to slow down if you won't slow down yourself. If you need help with any of this, I would love to help you. I can teach you how to really connect your brain to your body, how to interpret what is going on, and how to slow down to solve not only that spinning feeling in your brain, but also a lot of the things going on in your body as well. I have a spot open for one-on-one coaching, and if you're interested in that spot, I would love to talk to you. I will put a link in the show notes, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Overwhelmed Working Woman podcast. If you want to learn more about my work, head over to my website at michellegothier.com. See you next week.